Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar hosted by Mind Australia and the Haven Foundation. My name is Mark Heaney. I'm from Mind Australia. I'm the Acting State Manager for Supported Independent Living in Victoria, and also hold the portfolio of National Manager for Innovation and Growth for Accommodation. I'd like to start by acknowledging country today. And Mind acknowledges the traditional custodians of all the lands we are meeting from. And we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm currently on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, but I'd also like to acknowledge the lands of the Yorta Yorta and Bangarang people, which is in and around the location of Mooroopna, where this haven is being built. Mind also have a reflection on inclusion that I would like to share. At Mind, we value the experience and contribution of people from all cultures, sexualities, genders, bodies, spiritualities, ages, abilities, and backgrounds. And we are committed to inclusion for all our employees and volunteers. So, as I mentioned, really pleased to have you here today. We have a number of speakers, but just with a bit of housekeeping to begin with. Everybody's microphones and videos have needed to be automatically muted just so we can maintain a strong level of connectivity throughout the webinar. There will absolutely be opportunities for everybody to ask questions. We do have a question and answer function that you'll see at the bottom of your screen. So please feel free to ask questions into that function. And also just wanted to mention that we may not be able to answer all queries today, but we do ask that if you do have any specific questions that are in relation to your own circumstance, if you are an NDIS participant or you're here to support an NDIS participant, today's probably not the most appropriate time to ask those questions, but we will provide details of our highly skilled and qualified occupancy management staff who will absolutely be able to support you with those queries as well. So I'd now like to introduce you to some of my colleagues that will be speaking today. So as I mentioned, my name is Mark Heaney. I'll be speaking with Greg Wasmond, who's our senior property from the Haven Foundation, which we're really pleased to have with us today. You'll also be hearing from Carolyn Connolly, who is our supported independent living general manager at Haven, who will be looking after Mooroopna Haven. You'll be also hearing from Louise Radivonic, who is our occupancy management lead, who has a great deal of experience in being able to support people to get access to supported independent living and induct people into havens. And you'll also be hearing from Troy Davis, who is our senior HR manager. And Troy will be talking about why Mind is such a great organisation to work for, and to be able to give you some information around applying for some positions if you are interested in becoming an employee of Mind as part of this partnered Haven and Mind supported independent living initiative. All right, so we'll just move on to the next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Haven and Mind. So firstly, for those who don't know, Mind is a leading community managed specialist mental health service provider. We've been around since 1977, and we're delivering around 100 person-centered recovery programs nationally. And this is done through residential mobile outreach support, in centre-based services and in residential-based services as well. We currently have 1,100 staff and are delivering supports to around 11,000 clients per annum. And this is across the states of Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia, and Queensland. Mind have a very proud history of ensuring that we have people with a lived experience of mental illness within our workforce. To date, we have 9% of our whole workforce are designated peer workers, and 52% of our workforce have expressed that they have a lived experience of mental illness as well. A lot of Mind's work is really strong in the clinical partnership space. We're working quite closely with Goulburn Valley Health Service for this new initiative in Mooroopna. But across the country, we have 17 clinical partnerships and work quite closely with primary health networks as well. And that includes, I guess, upwards of 13 adult step up and step down services. And we also operate 4 community care units in partnership with clinical services. This program that we're talking about today in Mooroopna, that is part of a broader supported independent living services that Mind offer across the country. And Mind currently provide SIL services into around 27 different residences across the country. And Carolyn will talk a little bit more about that shortly. Well, now, before I pass on to Greg, I'll just talk a little bit about our partnered program and this site in particular. So Haven Mooroopna will be our 4th haven that will be opened. It is going to be ready for occupancy by residents in around September. We'll talk a little bit more about, I guess, the process of actually supporting people to gain access and work through that eligibility. But the pairing of Haven Homes and Mind creates a very proven model of promoting resident wellbeing, independence, and community living. It is creating medium density accommodation and apartments at Mooroopna. They're all very individual apartments. But the approach has a very strong emphasis on that family inclusive and peer-led approach to recovery and delivering positive outcomes. So Haven Foundation within itself is a subsidiary of Minds. They are a community housing provider. And we see that to be really great benefit in ensuring that Mind can provide, I guess, a really strong recovery orientated and person-centered approach to service delivery with a very smartly and intentionally designed home and living environment that the Haven Foundation provide. So part of what this looks like is the Haven provide really, I guess, strong designs which promotes independence, and that includes fully private living areas. It includes a private kitchen, bathroom, own laundry area, and an own outdoor area. But we're really aware of the strong evidence around peer support around recovery from mental illness. So we include as in part of the designs a good amount of community area where residents, if they would like to, participate with each other in peer learning activities as well. But I'll leave to Greg to talk a little bit more about the specifics of Haven and the designs. And just as it mentions there, I guess that this site in Mooroopna, as I mentioned before, is the 4th. We are opening another one in Laverton, and after then another 2 next year as well. So we're really excited to be here. I'll now pass on to Greg, and I'll probably see you all probably towards the end of the presentation where we'll be available to answer any questions. Thanks so much, Greg. Over to you.
Thanks, Mark, and welcome everybody. Could I also extend my thanks to everybody for taking some time out of their busy Fridays. I've been involved with the Haven Foundation for a couple of years now, and it's a great story. It's a registered community housing provider in Victoria, and that means that it gets some funding from the Victorian government to develop havens similar to what we're doing in Mooroopna and other places around metropolitan Melbourne and regional Victoria. It was established back in 2006 by families of people with an enduring mental illness, mainly adult children. of those families. It's governed by an independent board of directors, and it's chaired by Professor Alan Fells. Some of you will know that name, a very preeminent Australian who does a fantastic job in leading the strategy for and the direction for the Haven Foundation. We specialise in developing social housing designed for people living with mental ill health and psychosocial disability. We would typically offer independent living for up to 16 individuals, sometimes a little bit more, maybe up to 18, sometimes a little bit less, down to 14. We established our first Haven home back in 2016 in South Yarra, which operates today in a very successful manner. And Haven merged with Mind Australia back in 2018, when the decision was taken to extend the Haven Foundation, and with that partner with Mind to provide the scale that comes with a larger organisation. We welcomed Haven Frankston tenants in 2018, and as I speak, tenants are moving into Haven Highton down in Geelong. We're here to talk today about Mooroopna, but we also have Haven homes under construction at the moment in Laverton, Epping and Pakenham. And hopefully next week I'm able to announce that we will have been successful in receiving funding for additional Haven homes in regional Victoria. Next slide, please, if I could. So that's a picture of that's the dream. That's Haven Home and what it's going to look like in Mooroopna at 100 McIsaac Road. It's a large allotment of 7.5 acres. Stage one is, Haven Homes consists of 16 fully self-contained apartments in a very tastefully landscaped environment. We would typically build Haven homes, or apartments, if you could picture a serviced apartment type of environment. This is the first of our Haven homes where we've built on a large allotment of land, and we've been able to build in a campus style type of environment. Mark sort of talked a little bit before about the independence, or the additional independence we think that will provide our tenants and clients, and we're really looking forward to them moving in August and September. Really happy that we've been able to work with local contractors up there. The development was completed by Neatline Homes and Mawson Contractors, both well-known contractors in Mooroopna and Shepparton. They'll be working with us on stage 2, which we hope to start later in the year, which will include another 20 1- and 2-bedroom homes for elderly people in your local LGA. Each of the havens that we're offering at the moment consist of a main bedroom with built-in wardrobes, independent bathroom, kitchen and dining area, European laundry, lounge room, separate outdoor and a balcony to the front of the home. I said before that they're on a large block of land. Had a lot of rain in Mooroopna in the last couple of weeks, and our landscapers have been delayed a little bit, but when it is finished, it'll be very tastefully done. Footpaths, meeting areas, lights, and car parking. 100 McIsaac Road, for those that know it, is close to sort of shops, amenities and transport. Thanks. Just a little bit on the inclusion criteria for people to live in a Haven home. Must be diagnosed with a mental illness and either have an NDIS package or be very close to obtaining one. Our tenants would typically want to live in an independent home environment as opposed to a congregate type of environment, and they would have an NDIS goal as being related to accommodation. Community housing, typically operates and charges rent based on 25% of a person's income or their disability support pension, plus any Commonwealth rent assistance they might receive or be entitled to. All of our clients and tenants are taken from the Victorian Housing Register, so they must either be on it or be eligible to be on it for public housing. All got to be over 18 years older, and all sort of governed these days by the terms and conditions of a residential tenancy agreement. And all would be would come from, you know, the local LGA up there, or have an association with Mooroopna, Shepparton through families, etc. Thanks, Mark. So that's a little bit of a summary. I'll be available to take any questions on Haven Mooroopna at the end of the presentation. But if anybody wanted to, you know, or thought of something they might like to ask at a later date, there's an email address on the screen there now that you could correspond to, and I'll be happy to answer any of those queries via that medium as well. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks so much, Greg. I'll now pass over to, I think it's Carolyn, who will take us through the next section. Thanks, Carolyn.
So thanks, everybody. I'm here to talk to you about supported independent living. Mind currently have 165 NDIS participants who receive SIL, so supported independent living from Mind, across South Australia, Victoria and Queensland. So SIL is delivered to participants living in the following types of housing. So state government owned properties, which can be units, townhouses or houses. Community housing, so self-contained apartments that are grouped together. Specialist disability accommodation and private rental market, as well as public housing, as Greg mentioned before. And again, just to reiterate that obviously residents pay 25% of their income and Commonwealth rent assistance in rent. Next slide, please. So the pathway to SIL access is that we have a committed team at Mind that will walk through with the resident and family every step of the way to learn and understand what type and level of support is going to be meaningful and helpful to them. So that's quite a process. It's very detailed, and we found that residents and families find that really helpful. Supported independent living quotes are co-designed with the prospective resident, and we work in partnerships with the families and carers and all other key people in the resident's life. Residents will sign a tenancy agreement and be subject to the Tenancies Act, which is what we've spoken about previously. So the inclusion criteria for supported independent living, and also for a place at Haven, is the involvement of residents and carers and families are enthusiastically encouraged, valued and welcomed. And they play a big part in the Haven model. So we really want a holistic approach where families can, you know, provide groups and be on the side and involved in cooking and events and things like that. So all community is together in this space. We find that residents really need to not have significant drug or alcohol issues, and also not have aggressive and intimidating behaviour, because we want the community to be cohesive and can work together and recover and not necessarily trigger each other. So we do have people who have some fairly complex issues, but we do want to make sure that it is a harmonious community where possible. So support for your new home. So supported independent living residents with NDIS packages that fund assistance with daily living typically choose help with all decision-making, planning, budgeting, cooking, building skills to be able to shop, and some skills for healthy eating are usually some of the common issues that people might want to work on. Written communication and how to fill out forms, obviously that's quite a lot at times for people to manage. Learning to maintain a household and develop and maintain connections with family and friends, and just getting ready for their day-to-day personal care tasks. And I'll hand over now to Victor, who will talk through the applicant journey.
think that's actually me, Carolyn.
Oh, sorry, Louise.
So my name's Louise, as Matt said at the start. I'm the occupancy management lead for the Mooroopna site. So my role is basically intake and assessment. I might have already spoken to a few people attending today on the phone or via email. So we just want to take you through the applicant journey today. I wanted to reiterate what people previously have said, that we're really excited about Mooroopna. It's a really wonderful opportunity to be able to offer this service in Mooroopna, and also provide people really their own home with the cabin styles. So I do intake for a range of services, but Mooroopna is, it's a really lovely site. So in terms of the applicant journey, we've got 5 stages, from the expression of interest to the transition into a person's home. The process starts with an expression of interest. So that can either be directly to myself or through our Mind Connect service. So Mind Connect, sorry, is really our central intake and information service for all Mind services. So we accept expressions of interest or referrals from anyone. Really, it can be the participant themselves, it can be family, friends, or the person's professional supports. If you are looking to refer yourself or looking to make a referral to Mooroopna, I'd really encourage you to get in contact with me. If you have any questions about the site, like in terms of eligibility, if you want to talk through someone's individual circumstances or your own individual circumstances before lodging a formal referral, I'm always really open to have a chat on the phone. So once you call myself or Mind Connect, we kind of go through those high level eligibility questions, which are the things that Greg and Carolyn both mentioned previously. We then send you an online referral link. So the online referral asks, about a range of things, about someone's kind of support needs and where they're currently living and those sorts of things. And it also prompts you to upload a range of documents. So for this, in terms of uploading the documents, something that's, really helpful in terms of assessment is one of those housing OT assessments. So if you do have one of those, please include that in the referral. So then the referral's filled out and the documents are all uploaded. We then have an internal assessment panel, which is within our organisation. So the assessment, we're really looking at whether we are the right provider for the person's support needs, and whether Mooroopna is the suitable site for the person. Sometimes after this panel, we might have a few more questions, or we might want a little bit more documentation. So we'll get in contact with the referrer and we might ask a few more bits and pieces. Then the person, we say, so once you've gone through the panel process, we also like to get the person to come and have a look at the property. So obviously when the houses are under construction, there's kind of a point in the build where that can happen, but hopefully that's not too far away. So we get you to come and have a look at the site, and then we also make sure that the individual is on the VHR. So once you've kind of got those 3 things in place, someone gets what we call a conditional offer letter, and it sort of says the person's shortlisted for this site, but it's, moving in is contingent on getting the appropriate amount of funding for support from NDIS. So from that point, we'll work with the person and their supports and obviously NDIA to obtain sufficient funding for the support that is provided. So this process is really dependent on a person's individual circumstances. So I think, as Mark mentioned, there's probably a few pathways to funding approval, and it would vary depending on the person's individual circumstances. So I'd really encourage you to get in contact with myself and my manager, Victor, who's also here to answer some questions about your kind of individual circumstances in terms of funding. So once someone receives their funding approval, we create a housing transition plan, they'll sign their tenancy agreement, they'll sign their service agreement, and then they'll move into their new home. So as I said, I guess my two probably main messages that I would like to get out there. One, if you have questions, please get in contact with me. That's very much a part of my role, kind of having those initial conversations. If you want to talk before lodging a formal referral. The other message is I would encourage you to do that as soon as possible. We are kind of actively assessing referrals at the moment, and obviously the houses are opening relatively soon. So if you are interested in referring yourself or someone you care about or someone that you work with, please get in contact.
Thanks, Louise. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Troy Davis, and I'm the Senior HR Manager for Mind Australia. So with this partnership between Mind and Haven and the opening of Mooroopna, the upcoming opening, it presents us with opportunities for people to secure employment with us. So we have a range of positions that will be available, some of which are advertised at the moment, and some of which will be advertised this coming week. So my contact details are at the end of this presentation. So if anybody does have any inquiries, please give me a call or shoot me an email, and I can point you in the right direction. So a bit about Mind. I thought we would talk in the last couple of slides about Mind as an employer. So at the moment, we employ 895 highly skilled and qualified employees working with our clients across the organisation, and not just in Victoria, but that is presence in WA, Queensland and South Australia. So we're specialists in providing support to individuals who may have a dual disability as well. Our workforce, we aim and desire at least a certificate for qualification, whether that be in mental health or community services or equivalent. So we do have a requirement or prerequisite for our staff coming in that they do have a relevant qualification to be able to work with our clients. In addition to that, we do provide a comprehensive induction program and training once the employee commences with Mind, to be able to support people with complex needs, should they have complex needs. We also would like our residents to participate in employing staff. So having them be part of our recruitment panels, we think is really important to us and certainly to our clients. At the start of this session, Mark talked to our commitment to diversity and inclusion. So as an employer, we certainly value and experience the contribution from people of all cultures, genders, sexualities, bodies, abilities, ages, spiritualities and backgrounds. And we proactively recruit and seek candidates from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds, people who have lived experience of mental ill health and recovery, people with disability, and those that identify as LGBTIQ, and then those individuals from COLD background. So it is, and we want diversity in our workforce. We've got diversity amongst our clients. So, it is important to us that is reflected also across our workforce. This document here is what we call our value proposition. So this gives people a good feel for who we are as an organisation, what we offer as an employer, and what makes us unique compared to other employers. So a bit about Mind on there, what we stand for. We're making a difference, working with passionate people. We talk there about diversity and inclusion, so that's threaded throughout all of our processes and documentation and strategies and systems, etc. But most of all, giving people a sense of belonging and hope. And that's reflected in our values as well, which you'll see there: hope, creativity and innovation, being consumer focused, making a difference, and integrity. There's a little bit about our strategy in this document, what we hope to achieve as an organisation. We talk about lived experience, so attracting people, once again, who do have lived experience, who can support our clients, carers and families. We talk a little bit about our practice as well, so respect for people and their human rights, social justice, inclusion for all, empowerment, etc. The employee experience, so as an employee at Mind, there are a range of different benefits that you can access as an employee. One in particular that's of great advantage to our employees is our salary packaging options. So as an employee working for a not-for-profit organisation, there are significant savings to be made, particularly around, for instance, if you have a mortgage or are paying rent, we can organise through our salary packaging partner for those costs for those goods and services to come out before you're taxed. So you're taxed on a lower level salary. So there's significant savings to be made there to the employee working for a not-for-profit organisation if they do access to salary packaging provisions. There are also provisions for meals and entertainment as well, which as an employee you will be able to access to. A couple of other things there, monthly RDOs for eligible employees, developmental opportunities, and access for yourself and your family members to our employee assistance program. So we value the contribution of volunteers as an organisation, which is why we also mention volunteers in our value proposition. Student experiences are also important to us. You know, giving students the opportunity to learn and be part of what we do and contribute. It provides us with benefit, but also the student in terms of their journey, and it also provides us potentially with a pipeline of future talent and future employees, which, you know, there has been occasions where we have had students come in and we have engaged them as employees. And there's some information there at the end of that document if you would like to know more information on our website. What we'll do for you here is we'll play a video of one of our employees talking about why she works for Mind and why it's so important for her to work for Mind. Carly Dobbo.
Might be having some difficulty with audio, everybody, so our apologies. We'll try to fix that. Yeah, looks like we're not going to be able to do that. What we will do, it's a really short video, so we'll ensure for those that are interested that the link to YouTube clip, as you can probably tell, we'll put the link to that in there so you can view that at your own time.
And trust me, what people are saying is really, really good, so you need to see the video. Look, here's some information if you'd like to access our job board at Mind Australia. You can either access jobs through the Mind Australia website, through seek.com.au. But if you do have any questions or inquiries, just remember recruitment@mindaustralia.org.au. And our phone number is there, 9455 7993. But we will get that video to you because it is a really good video, and our employees do talk to why they work at Mind and why Mind is an important employer for them. So it is a great video. That's the end of my presentation. So I'll hand over to Mark Heaney now for any questions that anybody might have.
Thanks so much, Troy. Appreciate you sharing our value proposition and why Mind is a great place to work at. I've just opened the question and answer tab, and there's no questions within there at the moment, and nor within the chat box. So As I mentioned, we unfortunately do not have capabilities for people to be able to ask questions using their microphone. Often when there's no questions, maybe it's evident that we were really, really good at explaining everything. So, oh, I think there is a question here. Thanks, Christy. Interested in security around the site. Greg, I might pass that on to you as the I guess, representative of the builder.
Thanks, Mark. So 100 McIsaac Road, as I mentioned, is a large site. It will consist of a couple of different stages, but the entire perimeter of the fence of the home will be fenced, and significant trees planted along that fence line. We don't have security in terms of patrols. We don't have CCTV outside people's door. We do have on-site 24/7 support staff provided by Mind Australia, and as I say, they're available all day, every day. The site doesn't contain roads or where people can drive in and out. It's as I said, more a parkland type campus style development. At night time, there will be significant amounts of bollard lighting, along all of the paths that lead to and from and around the property. So I hope that answers the question from Christy, I believe. And look, Christy, if it doesn't, feel free to contact me and I can ask some more. I can see that question, Mark, and I can answer that if you like. Yes, it is accessible to the public. It is people's homes. It's not a clinical environment, and people are free to, come and go. We do have, access points to the property, where Mind as the sole provider would be seeking, to know who's on the property at all points of time. But as I say, it's people's homes, and people will bring their guests and visitors to the property, as indeed the rest of us do.
Thanks, Greg. Questions have started flowing through in the chat function and the question and answer. So I'll just go to the first one in the question and answer around, are there plans to expand these Haven homes interstate? Yes, there is. Haven also have very, very recently created a separate entity called Haven Foundation Australia, which is it is registered nationally, with at the very preliminary stages, Mind with Haven of actually exploring what opportunities, but there's been a lot of interest from other state and territory governments, which we're really excited on continually pursuing. And one of the other questions was, can you talk to some of the considerations that go into selecting an appropriate location for a Haven home? I'll try that, and Greg might hand that over to you. A lot of that is dictated by the state government. So through the Social Housing Growth Fund, there's a lot of research that's done into demographics and need within local communities. So the Haven Foundation were sort of guided by evidence around where that need is. Do you want to add anything further to that, Greg?
No, not really, Mark. I think, when the local, there are commitments made by Homes Victoria to local government authorities, councils, and those promises for funding are made on the basis that there has been work done to understand demand, not only for Haven-style community housing that provides, accommodation for people with an enduring mental illness, but also for community housing and affordable housing that you might see anywhere in Victoria. There was a question there that talks about how the properties are managed, and I can talk talk people through that whilst I'm here, Mark, if you would like.
Please.
We work in partnership with a large community housing provider called, and I've just forgotten their name.
Housing Choices
of Australia. Sorry, Housing Choices of Australia, who provide our tenancy management for us. So that is that they work with all of our tenants to, have, and mine provides the support to our clients to, to sign a residential tenancy agreement. Housing Choices collect all of those rents. Housing Choices might manage any arrears. Housing Choices would do rent reviews and property inspections on a reasonably regular basis. In a very similar manner, to what Ray White might look after, a rental property in the marketplace. With regard to repairs and maintenance, Mind Australia provides those services through its facilities management help desk, and we would be establishing through our procurement practices, partnerships, and the like with a number of local trades in Mooroopna and Shepparton to meet those needs. We're currently talking with a large disability organisation in Shepparton who we would hope to be able to work with to provide all of our landscaping and maintenance requirements.
There was just a question in the chat as well, Greg, from Sophie around that. So Sophie, we'll take your details down regarding that opportunity, and Greg or one of Greg's team members can get in contact with you. So thank you for sharing that. Just another question, Greg, you're getting them all today, don't know why. Around household items, white goods, furniture, what's the process around what the Haven Foundation will provide versus what the participant is required to provide?
Very similar to what happens in the normal market, happens in community housing, in that the Haven Foundation provides pretty much anything that's hardwired. So, stoves, ovens. We do provide a dishwasher, but generally our tenants would bring, their own furniture to the home. So their own fridge, maybe their own microwave, certainly their own bedding, lounges, those type of washing machines, those types of things.
Oh, good.
Each of these homes will have a small private fenced area around them that will include clothesline.
Oh, good. And there's a question that Carolyn or Troy may be able to answer around the team leader role was only advertised for a very short time on Ethical Jobs. Was there a reason for this?
We were just reviewing in line with funding and the model as to what that position would be. So that position will go back up this afternoon, I believe, or at the latest on Monday.
Great. So just for that person, that role is still available. It sounds like for other reasons. So please do jump back on in the next couple of days and you'll be able to see that. Just another question. Does a tenancy only last for the life of an NDIS plan? What options are for clients post 65 years old? The Haven provides community housing, so it's permanent housing. That's a really first principle aspect to this model. We generally accept people who have a psychosocial disability that may require long-term supports. But our goal as a service provider is ensuring that over time, the interventions that we are putting in place actually increase capacity and increases independence. So hopefully after a period of time, if somebody's, I think that question's just disappeared. If somebody's if their NDIS plan does actually, they may not necessarily exit out of the NDIS, but if their support needs reduce, their housing will not be impacted. So they are able to stay there. What we have actually seen in other havens, and Carolyn may be able to speak to this a little bit better, is that some people, after a period of time, if they've reached a level of stability, they may want to actually move out and move into more mainstream housing. We often see that based on when people might form relationships, or they may want to start a family for themselves if they are at that stage of life. And that's when we're seeing people do move out. But the important thing is that that tenancy is secured and it's not predicated on your NDIS plan. But more often than not, for people to get funded that 24/7 support, it is long-term support that people require.
And we have had that, Mark, where somebody has got married and decided that they wanted to live with their partner in the community, or someone who, just decided that they didn't need that level of support anymore and they wanted to change locations and live somewhere else. So all of that is up to the individual.
Yeah. And there was another part of that question on what are the options for clients post 65 years of age. Because the NDIS is for people up to the age of 64, but it doesn't mean that NDIS stops then. What typically does happen is that somebody would go through an aged care assessment, and it would be addressed not by Mind, but an independent assessor, if your functional impairment becomes more age-related versus due to your disability. So the housing is not designed for people that might have significant mobility. It's not specialist disability accommodation, but we'll do our best to be able to support people within their homes for as long as possible as well. All right, we've got a little bit more time. Strange question, but are pets allowed, and are there any restrictions regarding wheelchair access or persons dependent on wheelchairs, walkers? Great question. Greg, do you want to talk about the accessibility side of things and or pets on behalf of the tenancy manager?
Yeah, I can talk about the pets first if you like, and then I'll probably take the other question on notice and correspond direct with the person, because I just haven't got that detail right in front of me at the moment. But there were some changes to the Residential Tenancy Act maybe 12 months ago, where landlords, of which Haven is one, cannot simply just deny a person the right to have a pet on site. At Haven we have a process where people can apply to have a pet. We would typically do that in conjunction with Mind Australia, who are the support providers on the site, and we would discuss that with the person making application. Largely, we would just want to see that the person has the capability to look after a pet properly, and that the pet, does not impact on, the quiet enjoyment of other residences. Yes, people are allowed to have pets. There's a process by which people can apply, and we're more than happy to take applications on that. On the disability access, yes, there is. I just don't know the number, I'm sorry, right now, but I can go back to that person that's asked that question, Mark, if you wouldn't mind, in terms of accessibility. If someone could, or that person might, I've just put my email address up on the chat site, and if someone wanted to contact me direct, and perhaps leave their phone number, I'll find that information out this afternoon and get back to them straight away.
Thanks, Greg. And just another question, Louise noted that there would need to be liaison with NDIA regarding funding approval. Does Mind provide support and advocacy? Louise and or Victor, you guys might want to answer that question.
Yeah, I think Victor and I can probably answer this together. So a person still requires to have that direct contact with NDIA, either kind of via themselves or via their support coordinator. We also have very strong relationships with NDIA because we're such a big provider of SILs, and particularly these types of service arrangements. we can provide a lot of advice about navigating the NDIS process. So because we've kind of had so much experience doing it, we can talk to the participant or their supports about what sort of reports and things are required. You know, we can provide our perspective on whether we think that someone would qualify for the level of funding required at one of these sites. So we can say, you know, it kind of looks like, yes, that would be suitable for this person's support needs, or no, maybe it's not. But as I said, we kind of can't complete the NDIS on behalf of a participant or their supports.
Thanks, Lou. I think just to add to that, that we really strongly encourage support coordinators take the lead on this, just because that is absolutely what they're funded as part of somebody's NDIS plan, to ensure that the support coordinator is helping an NDIS participant to achieve their goals within their plan. And typically somebody should absolutely have a goal around housing and support within their plan, which will help the NDIA planner assess eligibility and suitability for 24/7 support as well. Victor, did you want to add anything to that further?
Yeah, just to add on to what Mark and Lou had said, an OT housing report is very important, because most decisions by NDA are based on what that report sort of states. So the criteria of reasonable and necessary is going to be based on those allied health reports and what you as a participant or support coordinator can advocate for. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've seen the SIL NDIS process really change over time, and it's becoming more and more that specific report is basically required by NDIA to make a decision about this type of funding.
Well, good. Thanks, Lou. Thank you, Victor. We don't have any more questions, so I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks so much. Thanks to all my lovely colleagues at Mind and Haven for coming along and presenting, and to Liz, who has been coordinating the presentation. And thank you all out there. We can't see you, which is unfortunate. Thank you all for coming along and listening in, and we'll make this presentation available to you and to your colleagues, for those who weren't able to come along as well. And yes, please contact Lou in regards to expressions of interest. And as Greg said, the place is underwater at the moment, not the buildings, but the land, but we'll try to actually organise times for people to come out and visit it, because it's a really exciting opportunity for the community of Mooroopna. So thanks again, everybody. Have a lovely weekend, and yeah, we'll see you again in the future, hopefully. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Much.